Hello and welcome to quite a short video about the partial solar eclipse that's 9 degrees Aries today. This is an eclipse that will I would think represent a kind of key stage in the ongoing split between the kind of crumbling old and the new like pioneering efforts that we are, uh, working on right now. It's in the first sign, Aries, and it really indicates some kind of insights about the new kind of pioneering efforts that we're seeing around us, or part of, or leading ourselves. Really showing us where we can be more authentically ourselves, and where we are not being authentically ourselves. And it can really help us to narrow down our kind of goals that we're aiming for in a new astrological kind of turn of the wheel, around the astrological wheel, through Aries, through the rest of the signs, where Aries being the first sign. Aries being a fire sign, this would be kind of like a fire starter sign. Yeah, and that's kind of pretty much what we'll see around us. It's got a series of interesting things happening around it, though. Last week, on Saturday, the 22nd of March, there was a Venus star point, that's Venus conjunct the Sun, at 2 degrees Aries, which is pretty much the same area. So this is a situation where a new kind of pioneering 8-year cycle began last Saturday around areas such as love and financial affairs, and things that we value, and in particular with this being Aries, how are we valuing ourselves, our time, our efforts? Now, also we have quite a range of planets that are moving between the final sign of the zodiac, Pisces, and the first sign of the zodiac, Aries. This is like Mercury, Venus, Saturn, Neptune. The North Node's recently gone into Pisces. And these are all indicating that we're looking at the things that are falling away from our lives, the things that are crumbling, part of the old kind of dissonant kind of structures we see around us, even things in ourselves that we no longer resonate with. This is because over the last few months, there's been quite a few retrograde personal planets. And in particular, at the moment, Mercury and Venus are retrograde, and Mars had quite a long retrograde period. For instance, yeah, Venus went through Pisces in January, February, looking at whole kind of cycles that are finishing, and then went into, after kind of evaluating our kind of mystical artistic efforts and how we were evaluating ourselves and valuing ourselves, and moved into Aries start of February, and then got to um, got to Aries the last few weeks of February to kind of look at whole new exciting adventures, new pioneering kind of perhaps artistic efforts or romantic relationships, and then became retrograde at the start of March at about 10 or 11 degrees Aries, which is pretty much the degree of this solar eclipse today. So a lot of these things we're evaluating are kind of forward pioneering efforts, perhaps physical kind of uh, athletic kind of physical goals, as I say. And then we're reevaluating these as Venus has moved backwards since the start of March, and it's now moved back into Pisces. whereas he's reevaluating the things where we're like, I need to kind of still get rid of those things, or perhaps talk to ex-lovers, or and clarify a few things, or perhaps look at our investments and see kind of, oh, we kind of like perhaps investing in something that's not really gonna bring us much of a return in the future. And along the way, Venus, yes, now, as I say, move back into Pisces to meet the North Node, kind of destined kind of meetings, if destiny is even a thing, but kind of fixed points, shall we say, that are more difficult to adjust than other points in time to go into Doctor Who world, and meeting Neptune, who's just about at the very end of the zodiac, in the final degree, the final section of the final degree of Pisces today, moving into Aries next in the next couple of days, which is, quite a big thing actually astrologically. I mean, last time Neptune moved into Aries, 1865, looking at the start of the American Civil War, where all of a sudden the borders of that country, that pioneering country, the USA, became kind of vague and dissolved. So this is the kind of thing we're looking at, where things that are like of a pioneering nature are like the literally the American dream in that case. Uh, were being, just reimagined, re kind of um, uh, dreamed, as it were. If that's even a word, that's not perhaps a new word. And obviously, this solar eclipse today is a mere 25 hours before Neptune moves into Aries for the first time since the mid to late 19th century. So you got to kind of think what kind of cycles have been going on for the last that period, and what happened last time. What kind of interesting kind of idealistic pioneering efforts were happening last time Neptune moved into Pisces, into Aries. This will kind of give us a little idea about what kind of possibilities are around. I mean, obviously, as I say, the American dream was heavily emphasized, liberation of slaves in the U.S. in the American Civil War, for example, which was echoed with the British Royal Navy trying to liberate slave ships in the Atlantic Ocean at that time. So you kind of look at modern day slavery, like kids in mines in Africa, digging out lithium batteries, um, uh, global kind of prostitution rings, and all kinds of wage slavery. How are these things? How could these things be dissolved with Neptune moving in? What kind of pioneering efforts could we take to um, uh, disassemble these kind of things? Of course, looking at these kind of revolutions and things like this, you can often see people in the past starting off revolutions and leaving things a million times worse than they were before. So these things to be aware of. You can also, if you look back at that period in the mid to late 19th century, you see um, things like the rise of sports, organized sports as well, around a more healthy physical form. I mean, you can see if, a brief look at online indicates how the revival of the Olympic Games and really got into gear in the like 1860s, 1870s. for instance, and it'd be interesting to see what would happen with the Olympic Games these days, and perhaps there might be various aspects of these Olympic Games which are, not particularly resonant anymore. And yeah, it'd be interesting to look at other possibilities for idealistic kind of pioneering efforts. Could be, for example, in the medical field. If I look back in the 1860s, 1870s, it was Joseph Lister, revolution, surgery with antiseptic dressings, apparently. And these days, you can see that the whole medical field of so-called injections that apparently help people, called vaccines, apparent help for imaginary viruses. You could quite easily see how all these things could be just totally dissolved in the next 15 years or so, and a whole new kind of more accurate and sane system of healthcare as opposed to disease care being one possible kind of avenue where these energies could be used. Even also the nature of physical matter. Uh, in late 1860s, there was the periodic table was formulated, and this is another area which we perhaps might find that we've not quite got it right again, and can explore kind of the nature of physical matter in a more accurate manner, perhaps. Other areas that we might kind of get insights around this eclipse period where we're kind of moving between huge cycles would be the nature of entertainment, where you can see how musical comedies and the music hall kind of acts in the um, about late 19th century kind of have led to the modern day kind of televised form, and perhaps we might look at more uh, well more resonant forms of entertainment. So basically, in all of these things, looking at kind of more enlightened leadership and perhaps more light-filled endeavors in general that could be focused on for the next huge Neptune cycle, a 165-year cycle. I mean, just briefly, all kinds of idealistic situations, such as you think of David Livingstone going into the depths of Africa or the heights of Africa at that time. Mystical adventures of ghost stories of M.R. James and novels and new ways of telling stories, and the artistic adventures of the Impressionists. Also, the new forms of exploring the sea, such as the ocean liners that came around in the about 1870s. And perhaps we might be looking at new ways to explore the depths of the ocean. But overall, these are all areas that, are kind of things where we might get realizations about new dreams to realize physically. But in an eclipse, we're not necessarily going to take action straight away. We might see things like just disappearing or dissolving around us. The recent lunar eclipse in Virgo, like a couple of weeks ago, Virgo being a very work-based, mental, practical sign, like a earth sign. It's very clever, very full of dexterity. So this might have indicated, for example, some kind of culmination of a long kind of work project or a long kind of process of developing the mind and developing some kind of communication project in the last couple of weeks. And now looking at the uh, new endeavors with this Aries eclipse. Now, this is the final eclipse of a series in Libra and Aries that's been going on for the last 2 years. So we're really kind of now getting a lot clearer about who we are authentically and what kind of pioneering adventures we would wish to concentrate. You might be able to look at previous eclipses around the same degree to find similar themes because eclipses run in a 19 and a half year cycle, 19-year cycle or so. And the previous eclipse at this period was 29th of March 2006, 8 degrees Aries. This is a solar eclipse again, of course. So looking at what kind of new adventures appeared in March 2006 might help. Also, the previous one to that was on the 29th of March 1987. Now, as well as those other planets moving back and forth over the kind of the marker point between the end of Pisces, start of Aries, the old world and the new world here, the old cycle, I would say, where Pisces represents the culmination, and Aries is like the new kind of heading off into the dark, into the wood, maybe not dark, but into the kind of mysterious wood, unknown, and exploring what's there. Mercury has also been going over backwards and forwards and is currently retrograde. Mercury is conjunct this solar eclipse today, which kind of makes it appear like some kind of key messages are being delivered here, perhaps from ghosts of people we used to know. Perhaps we're getting in touch with old work colleagues. I know I have when I've been looking at future jobs and chatting to people I was involved with academically, like module kind of tutors, old teaching kind of coordinators, and people along these lines. Also, Venus retrograde indicates getting in touch with old partners, old romantic partners as well. Now, Mercury went into its retrograde shadow at the start of March, and this was literally like 26 degrees Pisces, so right at the end of Pisces. So through this month, you might have noticed key messages about endings and culminations of cycles kind of coming through, and you're like, whoa, that's finished. Or something's fundamentally altered here. And then Mercury moved into Aries on the 3rd of March and then was retrograde on the 15th of March at exactly the same degree as the eclipse today. So, obviously, looking at the key kind of first 2 weeks of March and see what kind of things did you hear? What kind of messages did you find? Do you get? What kind of insights did you receive? Will kind of perhaps give you a little insight as to what kind of will be coming back today in this solar eclipse. Now, we can't really decide anything um, so clearly, even though we're getting lots of useful information and we're chatting to loads of interesting people, and we're like, wow, yeah, that's what's been going on. Or finding out things that we perhaps didn't realize that had happened in the past. Because Mercury is still retrograde, and as I say, and we'll go back to 26 degrees by the 7th of April, and we'll be going back over that period, reviewing kind of our efforts, perhaps our work-based efforts, perhaps our relationships with Venus retrograde as well. Yeah, Venus goes direct on the 12th of April. So, as you can imagine, this is not really the time to make clear decisions. This is a time to get clear on through chatting to people, finding out stuff, checking things out, perhaps as best you can in this confusing kind of period. And we'll kind of look at potential new adventures for quite a long period ahead. We've got, as I say, Mercury, Venus, Saturn, Neptune, and the North Node, all in that period at the end of Pisces, at the beginning of Aries. So it's a lot of information to take in. I mean, it might be a bit of a head spinner. Um, I mean, I found the other day I was just kind of a little bit worn out with all these kind of information changing things. So I was kind of asking some friends um, about how to get some more energy, and they would like very quickly like, yeah, do some exercise. I was like, oh yeah, I do some exercise, like kind of weights and things. But today I went out for a run by the beach in the sun, and they were right, they were correct. It was a great thing, and I feel much more energy. Yeah, Mercury doesn't even leave his retrograde shadow until the 26th of April. Venus doesn't leave her retrograde until the 16th of March, 16th of May, sorry. So, yeah, I mean, there's quite a lot going on. And I haven't even mentioned the fact that Saturn is speeding to the end of Pisces now, speeding to the end of Pisces. And he's going to go into Aries, towards the end of May. So, there's a great mystic I heard I would really recommend you follow, Anelia Benz, said the first 4 months are very much an energy bundle of their own. And this is borne out to me looking at this astrology, where really we're just kind of dipping our toes in the water of whole new exciting resonant adventures that we'll be focusing on, I would say, as a human collective for like at least the next 150, 160 years. And we won't really get going with them until May. I mean, we're kind of finding it a bit easier to take action now with Mars finally is up and running direct, the end going towards the end of Cancer now. But he's still in his retrograde shadow until May the 2nd. So what can we do? I mean, seriously, exploring kind of interesting possibilities for new adventures ahead. Uh, chatting with our ghosts and clarifying, finding out information, looking at huge things to release and drop from our lives. And really clearing the decks and finding out about these new possible adventures that we can really get going on in May. And that's the best I can think of really for this eclipse for today. Looking at the eclipse itself and the larger context astrologically, the bigger picture of the year and the decade, and even like a multi-century kind of perspective there. Yeah, because yeah, I mean, I mean, even if it seems completely impossible, our idealistic kind of quests and missions, a couple of months Saturn will come along and help us make it a bit more believable and realistic. And towards the end of the year, Neptune and Sun will go back into Pisces for the final thing before 2026, and they stay in Aries for a while. So I hope that's been very helpful. I hope that's been relatively clear. If you want more information about this year's astrological stuff, head over to my YouTube channel, or Rumble channel, on my website, Telegram channel, and I've got a video about the whole of 2025. So yeah, yeah, thank you for your time, and yeah, see you.